Final Hour Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jason Strudwick, Steve Phillips later in the hour, Kevin Lowe coming up here in a few moments. Our best bet still to come. Something to chew on, brought to you by Boston Pizza here in a moment. Game 7 tonight. We've been teeing it up all afternoon. I'm so excited for the game. Struddy, obviously, you're living at it. You're living, a different experience than we are. You're from Edmonton. You're in Edmonton. You were an Oiler. What do you think the streets are like tonight? Win or lose? You think it's crazy? Obviously, if they win, it's going to be bedlam. But if they lose, people still partying. It's a Monday night. It's depressing. I mean, how are we feeling about the streets of Edmonton tonight after the game?
Yeah, as a man of the people of Edmonton, I've been taking the temperature pretty widely around the city. And I think that people are like they're proud of the team, what they've accomplished. Obviously, not winning would be a huge disappointment, but doesn't mean this season's a failure, right? I mean, it's you get this far, you're one game in. I don't think they're going to tear it apart. We're going to tear Edmonton apart, but I think there'll be disappointment, obviously. But a win would be, the team wrote last year in the playoffs. You look at Vegas and they lost, and the Oilers were devastated, and I think they're hung over with that loss heading into the season and kind of were mentally not quite where they need to be. They got a new coach, and then it kind of took off from there. And Chris has done a great job, Knobloch, of solidifying this group. So yeah, I just think that, win or lose, they'll be proud of their team, but I think a win would just, and I think it's good for the city, but it'd be good for Canada, just to get this monkey off Canada's back about not winning Stanley Cup.
Strud, where are you at with McDavid? Do you think he kind of finishes the story tonight? I mean, there's so much focus on him, and he's been such a massive part of the resurgence from the regular season and what he's done in the playoffs. Does it just seem like it's his time and he takes control tonight?
If I had to pick one player in the NHL right now to win a game with, that's the guy I'm picking. He's the guy, because I think he'll be so determined to get this done. And he, not just in his play, but I think the standard he'll expect and set for his teammates is going to be very, very high. So I think he's going to come out firing on all cylinders tonight. Doesn't mean he's going to have 7 points, but he'll push his team, because there's been nights where the team has won when he hasn't got points. And that is probably the ultimate sign of depth coming up and helping out.
Him not getting a point in the last game would scare the hell out of
me. He didn't even have a shot. He didn't.
Yeah.
They've never won a game in his career. That's the stat I saw over the weekend. When he's gone a game without a point or a shot on net, it never happens. It's happened 3 times his whole career, and they lost all 3. That is uncharted territory, what we saw. Will not happen again tonight. I guarantee you he gets shots on net. And I think he gets on the game sheet, too, if they're going to win.
Yeah, and that's fair. But I think that, you look at championship teams, they always talk about took everyone. Everyone contributed to this, right? And it's not, the story around the Oilers has always been they're top heavy. I mean, how many times have you guys said it? Which was fair. They're top heavy. Now you've got a third line circled around Henrique that has become effective and at dangerous at times, the way that they penalty kill and start the games and bring energy to the group. It's every Stanley Cup team that wins is the same. It took all of us. Took 23 guys.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at it, Henrique, Janmark, Connor Brown's been big. There's different heroes, and that very well could be the case tonight. It's the obvious choice is saying McDavid shows up, or Draisaitl shows up, or Tkachuk shows up. Who knows? Maybe it's a third pairing defenseman that shoots one in, it goes off the boards, and who knows how it even goes in. Back in 2014, we had Justin Williams on. When Willie won his Conn Smythe, Alec Martinez scored the cup-winning goal in overtime.
Yeah,
he's a good player. Yeah, Ross Colton scored the game winner for Tampa. Exactly. Yeah. It's not always the best player. It's just got to be somebody, and that's all that matters for Florida and Edmonton tonight.
Well, I love what Willie said there. He goes, the chance. He goes, I think he said everyone would be excited because everyone can be a hero in that room tonight. And it's true. I remember when Jason Arnott, scored it for, was it?
Jersey.
Yep, yeah, and he was just going crazy. Kane scores the goal that no one knows it goes in except for him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So everyone has the opportunity to be a hero. And I'm guessing that, fans of either team probably don't want to go into overtime. But if you're a player in that room, I played it only in Game 7 in June. I never did. But I remember not feeling nervous, but I was excited to go and just show everyone we were better. Now, it's a long ways away from Stanley Cup Final. I get that. But still that feeling of, hey, we've worked towards towards this all year. We're not just dropping, O-Dog in a situation 2 years after he's done playing to be a champion. So there's an opportunity here to be great and to be a difference maker. And I'd be super excited. I'd try to get that first hit in the game. Then I'm just going to play my game all night long.
I love the Adam Foote philosophy. I remember hearing him interviewed, and I refer to this a lot. And it's a great thing to go by, where he said, you just try to pick out the 3 things that you do well and bring to the table and try to do them. If you get on the forecheck, you're physical, you kill, just pick out the 3 things that you bring to the table and do them. Do them to the best of your ability, the best you've ever had. And you'll probably have team success if everyone as an individual can do that.
Yeah, and that sounds like a pretty good philosophy. And, the beauty of this sport is that there's been so many different champions and so many different players, and I'm sure there's so many different philosophies, right, that get applied. And we happen to have a guy joining us now that would know all about it because he's done it 6 times. 6 times through the ringer. This guy's won a Stanley Cup, and he's a longtime NHLer, longtime Oiler, coach, executive. And luckily for us, he's got a few minutes to join us ahead of Game 7 tonight. There's Kevin Lowe. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great, guys. Yeah, looking forward to it like I'm sure all you guys are.
Oh, we can't wait. We've been buzzing about it all day. I can only imagine what's going on in Edmonton, South Florida. It's going to be electric tonight. And as we referenced, you went through this, 6 times. You were on the verge of winning a Stanley Cup, whether it was in a sweep, Game 7, what have you. What was your mentality like as you walked out there for puck drop and you were preparing for the game? What were you thinking you personally had to bring to the table that night?
Yeah, well, as a player, twice I played in the Game 7 in the finals, 87 against the Flyers and 94 against the Rangers. And I think they're kind of similar, Brian, in the sense that we really felt, we had experience. We'd won cups. We were still young enough, maybe not in New York. We were a little bit older then, but in the Oilers days, that we really felt that if we played a disciplined game, we eliminated the mistakes, we stuck to the game plan, played it to a T, that we had a really good chance to win. And so really it was, that would eliminate the nerves a lot of times. We'd talk about it in the room before the game, go over our personal team philosophies in terms of, how you win the playoffs. And Struddy and Jeff knows this, get it in, get it out, get shots, finish your checks, initiate, don't retaliate. Initiate, don't retaliate. And so that would be collectively, we could remind ourselves. And then, of course, in terms of the systems, we would govern that a little bit in the dressing room too. If guys are deviating a bit, not finishing their checks, we'd get after them. And anyways, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but we really felt that if we did those things, we would win, and that eliminated the, sort of the pressure and the nervousness.
Kalo, now you've played 7 games against the same team the Oilers and Panthers have. How much focus or attention would you spend thinking about what the other team might do compared to your own preparation?
Yeah, you want to reiterate their strengths, plays off the face-off, things like that, tendencies. But, we never, when we were winning games in the playoffs, we rarely looked at what the other team was doing. We just, as I just mentioned, we would reinforce what we're doing well. And that's not a ego thing. That was just, we had success. If we do the things well, and this is the case for the Oilers as well, if you ask me, they lost the first 3 games mainly because of mistakes they made, and not really, tribute to the Panthers, if you ask me. And then they started eliminating those mistakes. And, when you play better defense, you have a tendency to score more goals.
Kevin, we've been talking about McDavid, rightfully so. He's the best player in the game. You've had some experiences with 99. Was there any different games where you would just have a look at Gretz before the game, or maybe Gretz would say something that kind of – it's almost like one of those things where maybe it's not fair, but it's just the way it is. You kind of get a feel from the best player in the room of where their head's at and what their kind of mentality is before the game.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jeff. Really good point. Gretz was pretty even-keeled all the time, but when it was a big game, you could tell. He would actually get a little quieter, a little less horseplay in the dressing room, and you knew, okay, there's some serious business happening here. And it was, it didn't create nervousness from us. It was just the opposite, like, okay, we just have to follow that tonight, and probably good things are going to happen.
We're chatting with Kevin Lowe. Well, I mean, I'm curious how you see this modern day Oilers team where, it was Gretzky and Messier. That would be McDavid and Draisaitl. Maybe yourself and Coffey playing the role of like Ekholm and Bouchard. Different players, obviously, but you guys were, a great team, a dynasty, so many different Hall of Famers. Do you see any of the 80s Oilers in the 2024 Oilers? Like beyond the obvious that the best players here, maybe the best number 2 guy in the league in Leon, that would represent Mark, like I mentioned. How do you compare and contrast the teams?
Yeah, it's a good point. I'd say great similarities, but that's only happened recently. And Struddy and I see them play a lot, and we've seen the evolution over the last few years. They've had playoff series rounds, so they've paid their dues. They've lost and they've learned, and really throughout this season when they had the 16-game run, they were tight, man. They were playing, they were winning hockey games and not making many mistakes. And I would say, Brian, the only thing that differentiates the Oilers of the heyday and the Oilers of today is that we really got stellar at eliminating mistakes. If they do it tonight, hey, they're right on the same page, even par with those teams.
Kayla, it's incredible the evolution of the Oilers' bottom 6 and or the third and fourth line, especially that third line with Henrique. I mean, maybe just speak to a little bit to that impact that has on not just on the ice, but maybe off the ice about how they feel about their game.
Yeah, and it's history repeating itself. It's like those guys never get credit until the team starts winning like this. That's just the way it is, But I mean, all the great Oilers teams had guys like, Hunter and Lumley and Hughes and McTavish and McClellan, and I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. You don't win without those guys, and for me, the unsung hero for the Oilers this year is Janmark. Like when the way you're seeing Janmark play right now, he played that way all season. He wasn't having any luck around the net, but man, at one point in the season, which I think was a bit of an indictment on our team, I thought he was the toughest guy in the Oilers, and I just love that guy, And of course, you mentioned Henrique. That was a great move, getting those 3 guys together. I mean, man, they're gelling at the right time. It's really fun to see and really fitting. And I know the Stars love it when the guys on the bottom lines, have success and are part of it and feel it. That's when you have a team.
With Kevin Lowe. So one of these teams is going to get into the room tonight with the Stanley Cup, close the door, and it's probably just going to be the guys who are on the ice. I don't know how long they'll have together. I'm sure you got to experience that, hopefully multiple times, maybe all 6. Can you take us in the room after the game? Cups in the middle of the room, if that's the case. Doors are closed, just the players. Like, what's that like?
Well, the cup part, the winning part is, I have to go way back to 1984. That's a long time ago. And it's, you never forget that feeling. It's everything you ever hoped for as a kid growing up and playing the game and putting your time in and going through the battles. And it's, you got to pinch yourself to really believe it, and that thing is just a darn magnet to parties. Like, by the time we won in '94, I had to stay away from it because I was 35 years old and I couldn't be hung over anymore. I mean, that's a true story. And then the other part is like in '06 when I was manager and went down in the dressing room, was like, oh God, just felt so bad for those guys. Many of them never did go on, other than Chris Pronger, of course, to win a cup. And that's a really, it doesn't get any worse than that to get that close, especially in today's age, because it's hard to get there.
How hard is it as you get to this point where you can win the Stanley Cup to not look to that party, or not the party, but that feeling after of winning? Like, how do you manage that emotion that it's so close to what your goal being realized? Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be burnt, or don't have to, but in our case, we were burnt the year before against the Islanders. So, we learned what a good team is. And, we different back in '84. It was a 2-3-2. We split the games on the island. We beat them 1-0. They shellacked us 6-1. We came back to Edmonton. We smoked them a couple of games, but and we're in Game 5, which ended up being the clinching game. We're leading going into the third period 4-0, and still none of us talked about the cup, or because you just, until you get to
literally when Dave Lumley scored with about a minute left to go up 5-2, I finally allowed myself to believe that we were going to win the cup that night. So I guess that I mean, that's me. I don't know if everyone feels that way, but you don't want to be guilty of thinking too far ahead and be disappointed.
With Kevin Lowe, and that was the first one. By the time you guys win, your fourth or even your fifth, like, how was it a different approach in the room? Was it a different pregame speech? I wouldn't suggest anyone would ever get tired of winning. I mean, obviously that would be impossible, but did you ever get comfortable with that idea? By the time you got to 87, 88, 90, where you're like, this is routine for us. We know how this is going to play out.
Every series is different. Every playoff year is different. So it really doesn't get routine. And we got greedy. We like the feeling. We like the feeling of starting the season and finish the season with the cup. And that's what you're paid to do. You're paid to win the Stanley Cup. So for us at the end, I think really, I know this might sound a little pompous, but it was just doing our job. That's what we're paid to do. And of course, we love to have a good time too. So you couldn't have a good time without winning.
Kevin, before we get you out of here, before you came on, I mentioned Adam Foote's philosophy where he said everyone just pick out 3 things that they bring to the table. When you look back on Jason Strudwick's game, what would you say? Could you come up with 3 things that he could possibly bring to the table for a squad?
And I thought I did hear you say that, Jeff, and I thought that was really brilliant of Adam Foote. Just to hone in on keep it simple sort of thing. But Struddy could bring energy for sure. That was his.
Yes.
He brought energy. You didn't have to worry about Struddy being in the mix. And, you could rely on him. He would be, taking care of the front of the net, finishing guys off, jumping up on the play once in a while. He could jump up on the play and get up there and support.
Holy smokes.
So,
okay.
I
got 4 now.
I mean, Struddy's beloved in Edmonton, but he really – I enjoyed when he came to Edmonton, played for the Oilers.
Kalo, thanks for not saying super short shifts. That's what I thought you were going to
say. You just described what Struddy was, a 7th defenseman.
I love it. Well, enjoy it tonight, Kevin. It's going to be a great game, and I think we know who you're pulling for, but best of luck watching it, and thank you for doing this today. We appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Take care.
You got it, Kevin Lowe. Hall of Famer Kevin Lowe, and
great guy.
What a career, man! 6-time Cup winner, and
amazing.
Yeah, played in Quebec, and I was I was prepping for him today. He was English speaking, and he learned French and became the captain of the Rempart, which is just a remarkable story, and just a winner. I mean, that's what he was like.
Yeah,
that Oilers team, like he said, it was just that's what our job was, to win and then win again, and that's what they did. They won 5 cups in 7 years.
He's an amazing guy. When I went to play junior in Kamloops, he was living in that area, and he'd practice with us before I go off to training camp. And he was one of my idols growing up. All of a sudden, this Kevin Lowe's like sitting 2 stalls beside me, and he's wearing Big Star jeans. I don't know if anyone remembers those. Now, I couldn't afford them in junior, but once I could afford them, I wore Big Star jeans. I think I still wear them to this day because Kevin Lowe wore them. I probably wore them better. Yeah, I didn't quite have the bubble bum that he did. I'm telling you, man, like I couldn't, and he's still like a friend now. It's just crazy, like 30 years later.
Isn't it crazy, Struddy, how you looked at like an NHL player that came and skated with you? It was like, I don't know. They just had this aura about them where they're all like the same size. Like they had these giant legs and they had all like a big Ford Explorer truck. And you're like, that guy is just doing what I want to do. And you just had this look about looking at them. It was just, I don't know. It was crazy. I remember like skating with Eric Lindros in the summer when he just got his new Philadelphia Flyers gear. And I just couldn't believe it. It's you respected them and idolized them so much. It was crazy.
Especially guys that play a long time. Guys that play that long time. They have a confidence about them, the way they walk in, their conditioning, the way they handle themselves. Like you can go and just see an NHL player, right? They're just different. And
oh yeah, you could pick them out from a million people, and you could see one, and you're like, that guy's an NHL hockey player.
It's crazy.
That's what people say about us.
That's what they say about you guys.
They still.
And isn't it crazy how you have different backgrounds, different personalities, different sense of humors, Yeah, it's like a Venn diagram. Like there's something in the middle where every pro athlete, like they share certain attributes. Like basically what you just said, work ethic, an understanding of how to play. Not that I would know because I wasn't one, but you can pick it out. And there is something you're right about, like the skates when you see guys with NHL bags. Like walk in the room.
Yeah, even their pants, like anything with an NHL logo, their names on their sticks, like their names on their gloves. It's just, I was mesmerized by all of it. I would just be, it's what motivated me. It was like, I want what that guy's got because, I don't know, it was crazy how much I respected and admired that.
And once you made it from the OHL, you had your gold chain. And once you played in the NHL, they'd give you like that unicorn husk that they'd put on as a, what is that, a jangle? They put it around your neck. Oh, dog, you had the unicorn husk, right? The Norwal.
At one time, I think I had the unicorn husk.
Yeah, I know it. I'm telling you, buddy, that's...
That was a look in the 90s, right? That's you in the National League.
I'm telling you, it's so much.
I love it.
It's so true.
All right, Steve Phillips coming up. More on the game tonight. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. And also something to chew on. We'll update the poll online asking about the game tonight. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, something to chew on is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. BP is all in on supporting the Oilers to end the 30-year drought, and they're changing their logo from red to orange until the Oilers win it. Boston Pizza wants all of Canada on board to bring the cup home where it belongs. See you for Puck Drop and join us. Cheering on the good guys, history awaits. Got to be honest, I wasn't thinking much of that campaign like 10 days ago. I thought, I don't know, BP. I think that one's going to come to an end in 4, maybe 5, and here we are going into Game 7. And I would say that the pendulum has swung. And, we've been asking people throughout the afternoon, we've been discussing it ourselves, if the Oilers pull this off, is it considered the greatest comeback in sports history? And I don't think it's a surprise, or at least of the past, 20, 25 years. Oilers winning Game 7s, getting 60% of the votes. Pats down 28-3 is getting about 20% of the votes. Red Sox in 04, the ALCS getting 15%. And I actually think this is being undervalued. It's only getting 5% of the vote. Cavs rallying down 3-1 to Golden State back in 16.
No kidding, man.
That was huge, man. That was Warriors' 73-win season, too.
Yes.
Like, that was a massive comeback. And that was LeBron's, triumphant moment. Right, that was the moment that we will remember most is him going back to Cleveland,
the
down
block
3-1
shot in G State where he jumped up and went off the backboard, and getting it done.
Yep, that's it, man. And that's what McDavid's facing tonight. Like, if you come back and complete it, it'll just never be forgotten. Like it'll be a moment in time we will reference for the rest of our lives when the Oilers storm back and beat the Florida Panthers, and if they don't. As we established earlier today, the Oilers will just kind of fade away, and Florida, they'll get their flowers as they will deserve. Anyone that wins a cup deserves all the accolades they're going to get, but it's not going to be, I don't think it'll be remembered, as one of the great finals of all time or the great championship teams of all time. But that's how it's being, teed up. Like a lot of people suggesting this is the biggest game in league history, and I'm not sure how you define that. I don't know how you compare it to other big games, other Game 7s of the past, but it's definitely going to have a huge amount of people tuning in tonight. That's for sure.
It's huge for the game. Like, this is huge for the game. In Canada, in the United States, you have, just great storylines and draws attention, draws eyes to our game. And ultimately, we want to continue to grow the game, not just in Edmonton or Toronto and Canada, across as many platforms as you can. I think this is such a good way for it to end up for the league.
Yeah, I think I'm curious to see what the ratings will look like. Not necessarily, a bold number in the U.S., but which markets pop. Are people in New York watching, Boston? I don't even know why I'd be curious about that. But, historically, the U.S. networks, they play the same 5 or 6 teams playing every single game. Seems like it, right? The big profile game on ABC. Hey, it's Chicago-Detroit. Okay. Those teams aren't that good. Why are we watching those? Why isn't McDavid playing in that? Why isn't Matthews playing in that? And I understand that this is different because it's the Cup Final. There's not a lot else going on in pro sports right now. This is their night. It's the NHL has the platform all to themselves. The NBA's out. They've been out for a week. They're gone. You know, the NFL's in a dead zone. There's nothing going on there. It's all Cup Final tonight, but it's also your best player in a small Canadian market. And yet, I would guess there's a ton of buzz, and there'll be a massive rating for the game tonight.
A massive rating.
Yeah.
What were you saying? The biggest game in NHL history? Is that what
that's what I've seen people, like reputable people in the industry, suggest that maybe that's what we're witnessing tonight. Like the biggest game in NHL history. I don't know why it would be defined that way, other than the history, the fact that the Oilers are down 3-0. You know, that it's never happened in a Cup Final. It hasn't happened since 1942.
Maybe that fact alone, maybe it is, man.
Yeah, I think it could be described that way if Edmonton wins. Again, I think the outcome's important in terms of trying to define this. And if it's like McDavid's unreal tonight, like McDavid scores a hat trick tonight, they win 3-2. Like that's just a storybook, man. You couldn't imagine that ever happening. Like that's a moment that will last the testament of time. Meanwhile, if the Panthers win 4-1 and they just kind of plug along and the third period's kind of dead, I don't think this will be considered the most memorable or biggest game in NHL history. I do think the Oilers have to factor in, and they have to win in order for that possibly to be the answer in the end. All right, let's transition here. Another game going on tonight is the Blue Jays are in Fenway playing the Red Sox. And, yeah, they've been swept 2 series in a row. The Jays, they're a mess right now. I mean, let's call it what it is. They're 7 games under 500, and now their number 2 prospect, the one shiny toy that people were looking forward to seeing play, Orelvis Martinez, is tested positive for PEDs, and he's suspended for 80 games. So I don't have one positive thing. Like, you can find minor things here. Spencer Horowitz, there's a couple of guys you can look at and say, that's pretty good. In terms of an overwhelming statistic or an overwhelming storyline, I can't find one positive with this team. Let's bring in Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. Steve, maybe you can answer that. Maybe you can put more of a positive and optimistic spin on this for me. Can you find anything positive and redeeming about this Blue Jays team and Blue Jays season right now?
Yeah, boy, not really. I mean, it's been a bad week for sure, which compounds it. And then, it's the other stuff, right? It's when you're losing on the field and then this other stuff starts to mount. And, Martinez ends up with a suspension. It makes it that much worse, and it makes it feel like things are chaotic and that they're out of control. And their body language is awful. And, I hosted a show today with Jensen Lewis, who does, pregame, postgame stuff for the Guardians. And he said the body language for the Blue Jays was awful. He said that, things would go wrong and the shoulders would slump, heads would go down, and they just don't have a lot of energy or fight. Now, you look that way when you don't hit, and they're not hitting. And so that is, you look lethargic, you look flat, you look dead when that's the case. But no, I mean, look, Spencer Horowitz has played great. I mean, he had 2 home runs and made diving plays defensively. He's the one guy seems like he's playing his heart out there. And Vlad, he's had some home runs over the weekend, but it's just not enough. And, and it feels like it's getting away. So they've got 3 more with the Red Sox, then 4 with the Yankees, then 4 with the Astros, and then 3 with the Mariners. And, the Astros are on a 6-game winning streak right now. They've turned it around. The Mariners are sitting atop the AL West. The Yankees atop the AL East. And so, look, nobody's going to feel sorry for the Blue Jays. That's for sure. They're going to kick you when you're down, and you're going to have to find a way to pick yourself up. And honestly, it just doesn't feel like they've got that in them.
Yeah, it doesn't. This season's over, Steve. I want to know. There's no sense of detailing what's going on. They can't hit. They haven't been able to hit for 2 years. It's an unmitigated disaster. So the only question I have left is, what is the fallout of this? Do they just play out the string here, and it's a disaster all the way through? Or, is there consequences for this, or what ultimately happens?
Yeah, boy, it's hard to know, right? I mean, that's going to come down to ownership and Mark Shapiro making a decision about that. And, Ross Atkins has sort of professed his loyalty to John Schneider, so it doesn't seem like that there's going to be a managerial change. And, again, we'll see what they do between now and the trade deadline. And, 6.5 games out of a wild card spot because, the teams in front of them have lost some games right now. And so, they're not completely out of it, but it doesn't feel like they're a playoff team the way they're playing. And so I think that we'll know what's going on for the future, because if Ross Atkins is staying, then he'll be the one that makes the trades at the deadline. If he's not, because you have to make that decision. You're not going to, let somebody who you're going to let go, make the trades at the deadline to build for the future when he's not going to be there for the future. And so I think that, they've got that. There will be a good indicator over the next several weeks as to what they're doing, both with the manager and general manager, about the future of the team. And I think if they both survive through the deadline or through the All-Star game into the deadline, then I think you're looking at both those guys coming back. And the question is, what do you sell to a fan base about what's going to be different next year? Because if it keeps spiraling away like it is, they're going to be faced with having to answer the question about whether you trade Guerrero and Bichette at this deadline. And you can make a strong case that you should. I don't want to have to face that, which is why I would try to keep pushing to go for it right now, because I don't want to make that decision. I want to keep them. But you know what? If you're losing, I think you have to consider in this market, which is going to be a huge seller's market, way more demand than supply, that, it's the thing to do to do the right thing for the franchise. So I think the next several weeks are going to tell us a lot.
How, as the manager, how do you kind of go through the next several weeks you're talking about and kind of figure out what's going on? Is it underperformance? Is it, lack of talent? Is it all of the above? Like, how do you figure that out in such a short time that you haven't been able to figure out prior to this moment? Yeah,
well, I think they probably, as a general manager, you'll publicly profess confidence and support, but it's hard not to look at it right now and realize that they're undermanned offensively. They don't have the personnel to compete. It's not only guys slumping, it's guys who aren't quite good enough anymore. And that age maybe has caught up to some of them, and their performance isn't the same that it once was. We were sold on internal improvements, right? Internal improvements was going to be the key. That was the sort of mission statement, the code for this year, was they were going to take the same guys and make them better. And what happens is that you might make some of them better, but they don't all get better. And some of the guys who were good last year, they get worse on the pitching side. You had extraordinary pitching last year, but you can't assume that, okay, we're going to improve our offense, keep the same pitching, and it's going to be a better result, because it's just not, it's not real. It's not practical. It's not the way that people and players play the game. And so, I think that they have to figure all of that out. And I've got a pretty good idea about it. And the question is there anything they can do to try to improve it between now and the deadline, where they could really buy now, take a month, try to see if it improves them. And then if not, then trade those same players you acquired, because there's still going to be a buyer's market then, or a seller's market then. And so you could, buy, go for it, and then sell later if you want to. Now it's threading a needle a little bit, but I think that they need to really reflect and look in the mirror and not be blinded or protective of themselves. It doesn't matter what you really say publicly. It matters. I mean, it will at some point, because you need to be honest about why it's going to be different next year. But you really need to be honest with yourself about what's going on and where you need to improve.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst, Jays Red Sox down at Fenway tonight. So yesterday it breaks, Orelvis Martinez suspended 80 games. He just got called up. He's the second-ranked prospect. He's a guy that could hit for power in the minors. The plan was for him to hit for power in the majors and ultimately maybe get a buzz going around this team. It's just a disaster. And I'm curious, again, publicly they're saying the right things. We support this kid in 80 games. We'll have his back, blah, blah, blah. Is that actually the way it works? Like, how are Shapiro and Atkins feeling about what this kid just did and what he got tested positive for, and the fact that now he's suspended for 80 games?
Yeah, they're angry for sure. To tell you the truth about the human side of it, if I'm Ross, I'm resentful. Like I'm counting on you to do something for me, and you just let me down personally, because he knows that what the chatter is out there, and that people want accountability and why it's going to be different. And so you're angry, and then you have a bit of resentment with it. Now you can still support him, but there's some anger and disappointment about it for sure. And because it is a letdown, and I don't get why he didn't play for 2 days before they finally put him in the lineup, anyways. But that's whatever they decided. But there's also, like, the kid. Shame on you. I mean, you can say you didn't know, But if a doctor's giving you a drug that, is a fertility drug, and part of what it does is increases your testosterone level, you might wonder whether that would be legal or not. And so his story is I have no reason to doubt his story, but it's still on him, and it's not on a doctor in the Dominican Republic, just like it wouldn't be a doctor in Toronto or a doctor in Connecticut fault if you're taking a medicine or you're taking some sort of a drug without checking and running it through the medical department. And they're told this all the time from the team, from the Players Association. This is a player association thing as much as it is a club thing. And there's just no excuse for it. And so in your mind too, you're probably thinking to yourself, it wasn't, he might not be the brightest blue jay in the nest right now either.
Yeah,
Steve,
go ahead, O.
From an organizational standpoint, Steve, like George Springer's got a highly decorated career. How long can you keep watching him go out and do what he's doing?
Yeah, when he's got the big contract, you find ways to just keep extending it. Now, I mean, it doesn't mean
you just keep wheeling him out there, and that's the way.
Until you have a better replacement, and you can go out and trade for somebody and make Springer fight for playing time and that sort of thing, but you somehow have to justify the $20-some million you're still paying him a year. And look, at some point you get to that place where if he's being that unproductive, and you have to cut bait with it, I tell you what, owners do not like to eat money. It leaves a really bad taste in their mouth. But as a general manager, at some point, if you get the approval, clearing people out, at least you don't have to look at them every day, reminding everybody about your bad mistake, right? They're just gone. And it's not a reminder every time they come up to the plate that it wasn't the right decision. So it would be really painful to eat a lot of money, but it's, now it's death by 1,000 cuts, literally, swings and misses as they sort of play him through it.
Well, he's got 2 years left after this. After this,
yeah,
he's got two more. And, it could conceivably get better than this, obviously, but he's not getting back, in my opinion, to a point where he's leading off for you. He's the man. He's the table setter.
Yeah,
he's
but
hitting
Hayes,
home runs.
anything other than what he's doing has to be some kind of small victory.
Well,
that's all you can hope for.
I agree. And to emphasize what Steve's saying, they had him hitting cleanup over the weekend. This guy statistically is the worst everyday batter in baseball. That's not a hot take. That's not an opinion.
It's a fact.
Statistically horrendous. And they've got him hitting fourth in the lineup, Steve. I get the respect. I get the, and the clubhouse guy. I'm sorry that how do you explain to people you're not tanking if that's what you're doing? What is possibly the explanation that you're trying to win a ball game with George Springer hitting fourth? How?
Yeah,
I don't see how you can.
And here's the thing, if they're relying upon analytics, you can't use what somebody was 2 or 3 years ago as the foundation of a decision today when he's not the same player today, right? You can say, okay, the analytics, the matchups, this and that, but it's not where he is right now. Look, he cares. He works hard. He's a good teammate. Like all of those things that you want in a player that you're going to sign to a long-term deal. He is that, but he's just not playing well. And, I think that you keep making a mistake over and over when you keep putting him in the spot that's most critical on your lineup. And so I understand they don't have Bichette right now, and it creates a hole. But that's not the solution to filling it. Turner got on base 5 times yesterday, and still they couldn't win. And Horowitz hit 2 home runs, and they couldn't win. You got a guy got on base 5 times in a game, and another guy who hit 2 home runs, and you still lose the game. It speaks to the lack of length and depth of the lineup, and that there's major holes that can't connect one at-bat non-base opportunity to another.
Whew. Well, we'll see what comes of it tonight. We'll see what comes of it when Martinez returns. After 80 games, technically there'll still be a few games left in September.
Yeah, 5. There'll be 5 left. Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance he plays, or do they just say you're no?
I can't imagine. I wouldn't. I would not reward that with the last 5 games of the season. And remember, even if he did come back and they're going to the playoffs, he's not eligible for the playoffs. If you're suspended in season for PEDs, you're not eligible for the postseason. So I can't imagine that he plays in the major leagues again this year. I mean, it's a mistake. I understand you want to support him, but I can't reward him with those 5 games when he's not really going to be ready to play as a big leaguer at that point.
Whew. All right, Steve. We'll see what comes of it the rest of the week. Fenway, maybe Fenway's nice.
Guys, other than that, things will go
other
great.
than that, it's great. Yeah.
You know what I think the best thing about the Blue Jays right now? Game 7, baby. Let's go.
That's
Game
right.
7.
You got a distraction. Watch the hockey game tonight. There's one more. All right, Steve. Thanks, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
You got it, guys. Thanks.
Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. Yeah, he couldn't put much of a spin on it either.
Dude, it's
what are you going to say? Yeah, it's
by the way, he warned us, though, in spring training.
He did.
He goes, this is a lot of average, and it's just not very good. And they had the Ohtani plan, and, dude, we had people established, like baseball people, that said their offseason moves and about the team were described as curious and confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get people that know what they're talking about using those words, they weren't wrong. Right?
No.
So that's exactly what's happened here.
Right. That's code for this is a disaster waiting to happen. And we're going to polish it. Yeah, we're going to polish it. We don't want to be as, forthright, but there's potential here for this to explode.
Yeah. I think Tim Kirchin called it confusing.
Yes. I believe he did on this show.
Yes, on this show. And that's where the word confusing, I find in this business, is alarming. You know what I mean? Because a guy like that's never confused. Neither is someone like yourself, Brian. It's not confusing to you whatsoever. So when someone describes it as that, it's basically saying, watch out, because this is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, and that's currently where the Jays are at. And I don't know how they get out of it with the injuries. Bo's hurt. Romano's hurt. Obviously, Manoah's gone for the whole year. Swanson's down in the minors getting torched. Like Eric Swanson's pitching in the minors in getting torched. So I don't know what that means for him and his future. That's another thing that we haven't gotten to, and we will this time next month when we get closer to the deadline. And they're going to be sellers. They have to be. You have to trade pieces. How many guys really have value? How many people are dying to have Kevin Kiermaier right now or Justin Turner and good players, great clubhouse
George
guys.
Springer? George Springer looks like
you couldn't trade him.
Yeah, he looks like Tulo when the wheels came off, where it's like can't do anything.
Couldn't trade George Springer right now.
No,
you couldn't do it. So, are there guys with value? Of course there are, but supreme value where you're getting a lot in return, I'm not sure they have that guy right now. And, when the dust settles again, they just don't have a farm system that's highly touted either. Most people rank it 24th, 25th, bottom third in the league in terms of farm system talent. And one of the main guys is suspended for 80 games. So besides that, let's see. Go Jays.
Hey, Ross has been good to us.
I like Ross personally.
But any other organization, the fingers will be pointing right at him, and his time wouldn't be long. That's just the straight out
truth. That's the facts. Yep, that's the facts. All right, we'll come back with our best bets and tee up Game 7 one more time. We'll do that next. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm getting off choosing who's going to win here. McDavid, 3+ shots tonight. Reinhart, 2+ shots tonight. Under 5.5 goals. I am taking the under tonight. It would be amazing if it was a 6-5 overtime game. That's what I'm rooting for. I'd love to see that.
Overtime would be insane.
Oh, incredible. Incredible. So stressful. But, this is the beauty of not having a dog in the fight.
You just sit back and
enjoy. You want action.
Exactly.
You want action.
That's what I'm looking for is action tonight. And, I'd love to see the Oilers complete the story. I'd love to see, McDavid win tonight. I think that'd be an incredible story. Struddy, you'll be so obnoxious. People in Edmonton will be unbearable. But
we always are.
You always are. Let's not forget who won that ball game on Saturday night. I know you were watching with the Argos winning. That felt good. For the city of Toronto, we needed that on Saturday night. So your Elks, man, 0-3, they stink.
Dude, they stink again.
They're brutal, Strud.
Garbage.
It's tough. I think there'll be a new ownership. It's community owned, right? There'll be a new ownership in there at some point, and they're going to maybe change the way things are done because they're a proud franchise, but they've been struggling, right? Every franchise goes through it, but it's, you got to find the other end of it.
Struddy, Edmonton wins tonight. Do you take to the streets?
I'm thinking about it.
Yes.
Might ride my bike, my unicycle downtown.
The alumni, wear your jersey. I love it. That'd be outstanding.
Oh yeah, there's already lots of those down there. Lots of
it'll be unreal tonight. Best Bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes, the most electric bet in hockey, and can be included in a same-game parlay on any NHL game. Please play responsibly. 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. Good luck, Struddy. Enjoy the game tonight, buddy. Thank you for doing this.
It's good for the game. Let's hope they pull it out.
There you go. Jason Strudwick live from Edmonton. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate it. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.